The President of the United States sent a legal letter to Congress on Friday. It said the war is over. 3 hours later, he stood at a podium and said he might be better off without a deal to end it. Same president, same war, same day. And you need to hear every word of what happened next. Donald Trump's letter arrived on day 63 of Operation Epic Fury, 2 days past the legal deadline set by the War Powers Resolution, the 1973 law that gives Congress the right to know when American forces are in hostilities and limits unauthorized military action to 60 days. The letter was addressed to House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate President Pro Tem Chuck Grassley. It stated in formal legal language submitted on the record to the United States Congress, the hostilities that began on February 28, 2026 have terminated. That is Trump's official, written, legal position. And if you are still watching what comes next, we'll explain why this single Friday may be the most consequential day of the entire 63-day war, and why the people least informed about it are the ones deciding its outcome. Share this right now before the next statement lands and changes the frame again. Within hours of that letter reaching Congress, Trump spoke to reporters. He was asked about Iran's new peace proposal, the revised submission that arrived through Pakistan after weeks of collapsed talks. He said he was not satisfied with it. Then he said the United States has already won the war with Iran, but he wants to win by a bigger margin. Then he said the United States may be better off if no deal is reached at all. Better off with no deal. Those are not words spoken by a president who believes the war is over. Those are the words of a president who just told Congress it is. The letter says terminated. The podium says better off with no deal. These are not two separate news cycles. They are two statements separated by 3 hours, made by the same man about the same war on the same day. Every week of Operation Epic Fury has followed this pattern. Every deadline described as final was extended. Every negotiation described as failed produced a new round. Every time Trump said the war was nearly over, Iran launched its largest attack of the conflict. The contradiction is not a slip. It is the operating system of this war. And here is what makes it not an abstract political argument, but a physical, measurable, global emergency. On the same Friday that Trump told Congress the hostilities have terminated, the United Kingdom Royal Navy published a statement. Not Iranian state media, not an anti-war advocacy group. The military naval service of America's closest ally stated that shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has dropped by more than 90% since the conflict began. 90%. The Royal Navy described it as a strangulation of international trade and warned of a looming humanitarian crisis for the roughly 20,000 seafarers currently stranded on vessels inside the waterway. And on the same day that statement was released, maritime intelligence firm Capler published its own numbers. Before the war, approximately 20 million barrels of oil per day moved through the Persian Gulf. In April, that number fell to approximately 1 million. That is a 95% reduction in global oil supply from the world's most critical energy corridor. The Royal Navy says 90% shipping collapse. Capler says 95% oil supply reduction. Trump's letter says the hostilities have terminated. The force posture, the letter also says, will be updated as necessary and appropriate. The war is over and the force posture will be updated. Both sentences, same letter, same paragraph. Capler's analysis adds a specific and urgent timeline. A gradual recovery in oil flows may begin from June, but only if a deal is reached in May. A May deal requires a proposal Trump finds satisfying. Trump said on Friday he is not satisfied. The revised Iranian proposal, delivered through Pakistan and anticipated for days, did not include the guarantee Trump has demanded across every round of negotiations, a binding commitment that Iran will never develop a nuclear weapon. That demand broke the Islamabad talks on April 12th, after 21 hours of negotiations. It broke the first proposal that Secretary Rubio himself called better than expected. And according to Trump's own characterization on Friday, the revised version has also failed to meet it. The guarantee that Trump says is non-negotiable is the guarantee that every Iranian proposal has declined to give. And here is the question that nobody in the Friday briefing room asked directly, the one that may actually determine whether this war ends in the next 30 days. Stay with this, because the answer is not what you think. The supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ali Khamenei's appointed successor, the man whose theological authority is required to ratify any nuclear commitment within Iran's constitutional structure, has not been seen publicly since being named. United States officials say he may be severely incapacitated from the strike that hit the building he was in. Iran's senior cleric Comey confirmed he was wounded, but claims he is in full health and carrying out his duties, and that moments before the bomb fell, by divine will, he stepped into the courtyard. Wounded, severely incapacitated, in full health, invisible. Iran's foreign minister has toured Islamabad, Muscat, and Moscow. Iran's army has held press conferences declaring full readiness. Iran's parliament passed a 261-vote statement of support for the negotiating team. The supreme leader has not been seen. If the man whose signature gives a nuclear guarantee its legitimacy inside Iran's governing structure cannot be seen, cannot be confirmed as capable, and cannot be publicly accountable, then the guarantee Trump says is non-negotiable may be constitutionally impossible to deliver until his condition is resolved. The nuclear demand may not be a negotiating position. It may be a door with no handle on the other side. A Washington Post, ABC News, and Ipsos poll released Friday found that 61% of Americans now say it was a mistake for the United States to use military force against Iran. For context, the Iraq War reached 59% mistake in May 2006, 3 years in. The Vietnam War hit 60% mistake in 1971 after years of escalation. The Iran War reached 61% mistake in 63 days. No comparable American military action in the documented polling record has moved public opinion this fast. Among Democrats, 90% call it a mistake. Among independents, the voters who decide November elections, 71% call it a mistake. Among Republicans, 19% call it a mistake. 19% of his own party. And on the question of what happens next, the country is split almost exactly in half. 48% say, accept a worse deal and end it. 46% say, push for a better deal, even if that means resuming military action. 2 percentage points separate the make a deal camp from the resume the war camp, in a country where 61% already says the war should never have started. That is the domestic political landscape on which Trump said Friday he may be better off with no deal. We update this analysis daily as developments break. Drop your take in the comments. Every response is read, and the sharpest analysis gets featured. Germany's response to Trump's threat to withdraw American troops from Italy and Spain for failing to back the Iran operation has received almost no coverage and deserves more. Germany did not object. Germany did not condemn. Germany said it anticipated the withdrawal. Anticipated, meaning expected, prepared for, and already adjusted to. The largest economy in Europe, the country whose post-1945 security architecture has been built around American military presence on the continent, looked at Trump's threat and said, "We saw this coming." Europe is not shocked by the Iran war's consequences. Europe has been watching and preparing. The FIFA story embedded in Friday's news cycle is the kind of detail that sounds invented, but is entirely confirmed. FIFA President Gianni Infantino reaffirmed that Iran will compete at the 2026 World Cup and play matches on American soil this summer, in American stadiums, in American cities. Iran's national soccer players will travel to the United States, while the United States Navy maintains a naval blockade of Iranian ports. while Trump tells Congress the hostilities have terminated, while Iran's president calls the blockade an extension of military operations. While 20,000 seafarers are stranded in the strait those ships cannot clear. Iran's footballers will play in America. The blockade and the ball are happening at the same time. Here is where everything lands on day 63. The letter says terminated. The press conference says better off with no deal. The Royal Navy says strangulation. Capler says 95% oil reduction. The poll says 61% mistake. The supreme leader is wounded, invisible, and constitutionally indispensable. Iran's revised proposal is not satisfying. Trump wants to win by a bigger margin. The force posture will be updated as necessary. The June recovery requires a May deal. The May deal requires a satisfied president. The president is not satisfied. And gas is $4.30. The single most important question of day 63 is not whether the war is legally over. It is whether the nuclear guarantee Trump says is non-negotiable can ever be delivered by a government whose authorizing authority has not been seen since being wounded. If that answer is no, then every negotiating round that follows, every proposal, every Pakistani intermediary, every Muscat back channel is not a path to a deal. It is a performance of one. If that answer is yes, then the Supreme Leader's condition is a deliberate information operation designed to buy time for a military that says it has missiles for years. Either answer is more alarming than the ceasefire language in the letter to Congress. Share this before the next statement. Comment with which answer you believe. And if you want this analysis every single day as this war moves, because it is moving every day faster than any coverage is tracking it, the subscribe button is right below this video, and it takes 2 seconds to make sure you never miss what happens next.